Louis Theroux has recently released a documentary around the Manosphere on Netflix, and today we're going to be opening up our views on it, what we think it actually is, the main problems, how you can overcome it, and so much more. So let's get into it. What were your thoughts, mate, as you initially started to watch this documentary? Because you didn't have a great understanding as to what it actually was, did you?
No. So obviously, I know the likes of Andrew Tate and his brother and people like that exist. Of course, I've seen that, but I didn't know what Manosphere was, what it stood for, and all the rest of it. And when it comes to programs like similar of that ilk on Netflix, I'd stay away. I'd rather sit there and read my book than watch something like that on Netflix. But after speaking to yourself and a few other people, they said, because they wanted my opinions, I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I'm going to be completely honest, I haven't finished watching it. I've only watched the first 60 minutes. So, first of all, the program is about the manosphere and is about the men that are in that program are talking about what a man should be and what a man stands for. I think after I reflected on it, there was only one man that I saw in that program, and that was Louis Theroux. The rest of them were boys, lost boys, and I think Louis did Louis did a fantastic job of exposing these guys, which is what he does. I know he does a lot of that in his documentaries. I think he did a great job of that, and to be honest, they just look like fools on TV. But he made something very clear in there, which was a lot of them didn't have any father figures in their lives. Either their fathers abandoned them, or they were not emotionally available. And as soon as I saw that when I heard that in the documentary, I was like, that's it.
Mm.
They're not men. They're lost boys. I think the way that they talk about women is disgusting. And who's guiding them in life? What's their philosophy for life? I'd love to sit down and coach them and take them through philosophy and ask them loads of questions. But then the only thing that the documentary didn't show, and respectfully, I know I've not finished it, but I've heard from other people as well that the documentary doesn't cover this. That what's the reason young boys are looking up to that? Why is that happening? So, but I understand it. If you're on YouTube, if you're a 13, 14-year-old boy and you're searching on YouTube, you're into football, maybe you're into boxing or whatever, click, click, click. All of a sudden the algorithm kicks in and now you land on those guys, then yeah, that's a major problem. So I see it as there's a platform problem there with the algorithms and social media, but also there's the problems at home. It's education, it's in schools. It comes down to that. And then also outside of schools, when young boys are going to football practice, they're going to boxing clubs or whatever they do, that coach that's there needs to be support there as well.
Mm.
So there's a lot that showed up, and obviously I'm the father of two boys as well, two very young boys. My background is tech, so I'm quite, I understand how it works on tech and everything else, and I know the day when I hand over a mobile phone to them, there's going to be lots of things that are in place on that phone. So, but I think it's like the work that we do with the men, creating that space for them to talk, and that's where the education needs to come in. And I think a lot of parents, whilst they're all doing the best that they can, we parent the way that we were parented, and it's not always the right way. And I'm still learning. By the way, I am not perfect at this. I'm a new dad, and I've got nearly a 4-year-old and nearly a 3-year-old. Sorry, nearly a 2-year-old, and I'm still new to this. And there's a lot that shows up. Every day's a school day, but you have to do that inner work, and you have to learn to ask great questions and create a space for them to talk and listen without fixing, without judging. And that's the key part that I'll be doing with my boys as they grow up.
Mm.
What did you think?
The end goal for most of these men is to make money because then it will give them status, then it will give them significance. So that's the end destination. The vehicle that they use to arrive at it is misogyny, is aggression, is to be outrageous, to, essentially clickbait people into buying their courses. So some of them will be renting Lamborghinis for the day. Then they'll say, if you want to learn how to make money online like me, buy my course and I'll show you how to do it. And if you're an impressionable 16 to 18-year-old or however old these young men are, and you see the things that we've had rammed down our throats through advertising and marketing, through film, through television, of the attainable goals of the beautiful women in the fast cars,
Mm.
then you're going to want to attain that. Of course you are. And the thing is, it's very easy to look through the lens now as where, late 30s approaching our 40s, saying that these young men are broken. Well, can you only imagine how destructive our lives would have been if we had gone back to 20 years and had the same access that they do to this bullshit?
Yeah.
Think about what we were doing when we were 16 to 18. Was that not destructive? Going out and drinking every night and doing
Yeah.
drugs and one night stands and all the other stupid shit that you did. So young people aren't drinking as much alcohol, but instead they're being more at home on their own. So
Mm.
they are more lonely than ever. They're not socializing as much. So the solitude and loneliness epidemic is very real. And the thing that I don't like is that there's an insinuation that, all these young men are broken. I don't think it's necessarily their fault. They're part of a system that is almost failing on many, many levels. So if you see someone that is in good shape, that is attracting women and drives fast cars, and then they can show you how to get money and status and significance to essentially be seen and be heard, you're going to do everything you can in your power to get that, rightly or wrongly.
Mm.
So that's what I saw along the way. And what I found so interesting about the documentary was Louis Theroux interviews them, makes them look stupid because he doesn't necessarily say anything. He just asks great questions and lets them talk.
Mm.
Then, when Louis left their homes and they posted out short clips promoting the pending documentary, and they saw all the backlash that they had towards their own ideology, they then started to retract a little bit and become a bit more nervous, which I found really interesting. And they became even more defensive because now they're slowly realizing my echo chamber is somewhat disappearing now. You don't have 18-year-olds going, oh, this is amazing. You've got actual intellectual men that commenting saying these boys or men are completely lost.
Mm.
Therefore, it's impacting their levels of significance, and
Mm.
they're not getting what it is that they want out of it because you can't manipulate emotionally intelligent men. And the other narrative as well that I'm sick of hearing is there's no good men out there. Yes, there are. I could name you 10 to 15 off the top of my head. The likes of Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, Zig Ziglar, Matthew Hussey, Dr. Gabor Mate, Chris Williamson. I could just keep going and going of people that are advocating for men's health, men's rights, men's everything,
Mm.
but they're not as sensationalist as or hyperbolic as these influencers, so it won't get the same attention, unfortunately.
No. No, because obviously they obviously show the fame and the money and the cars and the watches and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Mm.
I thought I thought part of it was a bit of a show. I can't remember the guy's name that was hosting the podcast, that guy on the show. And
Myron, maybe.
yeah, and he had his partner there,
Yeah.
and then it was a little bit awkward on the camera. And I'm thinking, you don't speak, you love her, you don't speak to her like that at home. But I heard apparently they split up now or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way you speak to her like that behind closed doors. It was like it was put on. It was like it was all for the camera. It's all a show.
Mm.
That's what
Yeah.
I saw.
The complete facade. And when
Mm.
you interviewed when he interviewed that Justin guy as well, and it's one way monogamy. My wife doesn't
Mm.
talk to other men. you don't have to be a body language expert to see that she was extremely uncomfortable
Yeah.
and that she was probably lying. It
Yeah.
wasn't a case of, oh, she looked down to the left and then she looked up, which means she's lying. You could just tell her whole physiology became smaller when she was talking about this kind of thing. And she was saying everything that she needed to please him, probably through fear.
Mm.
So,
It's the bit where the camera's still, they've stopped talking and the camera's still rolling, and like the questions have been answered, but the camera, they point the camera across and you just see like the woman, I don't know, or one of them just look down like this,
mm,
and you can see it all over her face. It's just there.
yeah,
Yeah. Don't need an
yeah.
expert to watch to point that out.
Well, they're teaching it in schools now to young boys about the concept of toxic masculinity. How damaging is that? Oh, we're going to tell young boys what they're doing wrong. What are you on about?
So who's the leader of that? That must be government come through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
government backed. It's going through schools. So you're teaching boys the concept of what it is to be to be masculine is labeled as toxic, because I can't stand that terminology either. Toxic masculinity.
Mm,
So when you look at certain things that the Andrew Tates of the world say are exactly what a masculine man is: taking responsibility, building discipline, improving your health, becoming financially stable, raising your standards. How he says it, very different.
mm,
So he'll say things like, stop being a little bitch, and, blah, blah, blah. So, and, you're an absolute pussy, and the woman is only there to serve you, and shit like that. So the overriding message gets drowned out by his nonsense. Now, it's got nothing to do with masculinity of misogyny and belittling women. That's not what a masculine man is. For me, being masculine is being strong, being empathetic, having a vision, living in alignment with your values, being a good communicator, looking after yourself. So the thing that's toxic is the person or the message that they're conveying. It's got nothing to do with masculinity. I've never heard the phrase toxic femininity.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because my wife and I had a conversation afterwards, and she says, "Well, what do you think a man is?" And it's similar to what you were saying there. You know, a man is, yes, strength, has courage, has bravery, but he's also kindness, has love. And for me, what we started at the start of this podcast is, who's guiding you in life? What principles are you following? Is it a religion? What is it? A philosophy? And as you know, I love Stoic philosophy. Stoic philosophy, the true Stoic philosophy, not the stuff you see on the internet, especially around YouTube, which probably the extreme version of it would fall into what these guys are pushing, which is not Stoic philosophy. But if you want to read what a good man is, then pick up a book of meditations. Leader to Marcus Aurelius, 2,000 years ago. Tell you everything you need to know. Epictetus, read that. Discourses. And look at Seneca's work, Zeno. But then, not only that, look at the men over history that have followed the Stoic philosophy. People like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jeff Bezos, Pete Carroll, who's a Super Bowl winning coach, Bill Clinton, Warren Buffett, Tim Ferriss. These are all great men, great leaders that follow and apply Stoic philosophy and principles and learn the four virtues of courage, temperance, wisdom, and especially justice. Because for me, it doesn't matter who you are, it falls under justice, which means if you're a man, if you're a woman, whoever you identify who you identify as, whatever, the Stoic sees you as individual. That's it. Everyone is equal. We're all doing this together. I'm not better than anyone else. You're not better than me. That's how the Stoics look at this, under the justice virtue. So women just have the exact same rights as men. That's it. Done. That's how you look at this. It's equality and treating people fairly. So again, that's what the philosophy does when you do it, when you read it. So a question for you guys, if you're a man watching this, who's guiding you in life? Which leaders are you looking up to? And what philosophy you're following?
But a lot of these people on the documentary, let's just go with these guys in particular, they had no male figure, so they're either physically or emotionally unavailable. So therefore, they didn't get the validation they needed. So they weren't ever seen, heard, or felt in any way, shape, or form by a male figure. So if you feel insignificant, how do you gain significance? You can either build the tallest building in town or you can tear down everybody else's. So it's not to say that they will ever change this behavior as long as you attach something positive to it. So if your only evidence of becoming significant is to make money and to get views online and to be in a nice villa in Marbella, the likelihood of you changing that, if that's all you've ever been exposed to, is slim to none. So it could be, on certain aspects, it could be a level of maturing. You know, that Justin guy who was 40s, 50s, maybe, very different to one of the other young lads, a guy called Ed Matthews, who was forcing people to eat dog food on camera. So the levels of maturity are vastly different.
Yeah.
But again, Justin was all he was talking about: women, cars, money, going after it, going after status.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is. So yeah, it's an unfortunate reality. We all have ways of feeling significant. Some people do it through charity work, and then people say, "Oh my God, wasn't he so kind?" That's a really helpful way to gain significance, I would say. Some people gain significance by getting more tattoos in places that you didn't know existed. Some people get significance by starting a business and hiring people. Some people gain significance by getting in great shape. Some people do it by buying nice cars. So there's all sorts of different ways to hit your need. And yes, there are way more helpful ones, of course, and the ones that these young men are doing. But yeah, if you rewind back to your 18, 19-year-old self with the resources that these guys now have and chucking a load of money at it, it's a whole different
Whole
problem.
different ball game. Yeah.
So
That's
the
it.
way that we combat this, and this is a universal message to everyone watching, male or female, whether you've got children or whether you don't, is to listen without fixing. We're so purpose driven as men that we feel like we have to provide a solution to everything. But a lot of women can't handle men being emotional either. So they distance themselves or, say things like, it gives me the ick, or he's too emotional, or whatever. But what a safe space is to listen without fixing and without judging and asking more questions. So if you've got a friend right now that's going through a hard time and he says, "Oh, mate, I'm really struggling," don't say, "Oh, yeah, I completely understand, mate. I went through a hard time once too," because you're going to destroy rapport. If you start telling them how to solve their issues, that's again going to be a huge, huge problem. And what it's creating is a lack of emotional safety, because then they won't come to you the next time you've got a problem. So if you're wondering why a friend or family member has become distant, it's usually because you've not held that safe space for them to share. So that's universal and transferable to literally anyone.
Yeah. And obviously some of the tools that we use with our clients, the frameworks are things like the drama triangle, to understand how that works. Look that up on YouTube, or listen to our podcast, search drama triangle. You'll get some more information on that. And then it's the empowerment dynamic, which is the positive side to that triangle. And yeah, once you learn those frameworks, it'll take your communication and how you talk to people differently. 100%.
Yeah. Beautiful. So hopefully you guys found that useful. Let us know in the comment section your takings from it, and whether you agree or disagree with what we've talked about today. And we'll see you on the next video.
See you next time.